Things are going well. How about you?
Doing all right, except for being double booked today.
Got it.
Yeah. So not sure not sure how long I'm gonna be on this call.
Okay. Well, that's why you have it every week, right?
Yep, that's why it's every week. How'd your weekend go?
Went pretty well. Yeah. Yeah, went pretty well. I think it was Halloween, and so Halloween is kind of fun. My next door neighbors are crazy. They've got these like 8, 9 foot things that they put in their front yard. Um, And so there's like a massive ogre. So like when I go to the mailbox, I'm standing next to this massive ogre. Oh, and he moves and talks to you. And then there's a werewolf next to him. So yeah, there's all it's kind of fun around here. I did just for kicks. I took a picture of the ogre and the werewolf, and I created this little Sora video of them. Like time for a coffee break, and then they walk off. It actually came out pretty good. That was fun.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Steven, how's it going?
Good, good. How's it going, Ron?
Good, good. Tim is double booked, so if he goes on mute, he's probably doing another call. So, what about you? How was your week?
It was pretty good. I didn't make a lot of progress with my AI filmmaking stuff, but
Mm, Well, it,
it's-
it takes time.
yep. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I just wasn't generating video. So,
Got it. So I guess there are two questions. Like, you just weren't doing it, or you just weren't getting what you wanted.
oh no, I wasn't doing it.
Yeah,
I usually will get what I want if I stick at it long enough. So,
right, right. Yeah, no, it is a rabbit hole.
yeah, I heard someone just talking about. I mean, this was more on creating AI models, but it applies to this stuff too. That it's more like growing plants than than something more specifically deterministic, scientific, whatever.
It is a non-deterministic art or science, if you
Yeah,
will. You
yeah.
know, I like the term that I've heard before, that these models are stochastic parrots. That's what they're good at.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So looks like Tim has now just totally abandoned us. I'm
Right.
assuming that he's being paid to be on that one. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah. So
So,
you were talking about you were doing something with an ogre and
oh yeah, he was just asking like how the weekend went, and I was saying that my next door neighbors go all out in decorating their front yard. And so they have like this 8 foot ogre.
oh,
Um,
I see,
and
okay.
then next to that was a werewolf.
Mhm.
And so my wife had taken a picture of those because they're like if I go to a mailbox, I'm standing next to the ogre. And so she took a picture of it, and I decided to see if I could just put that into Sora to see if I could animate them.
Oh, that's cool.
And it did and it came out great. That pretty much I had the ogre say, "All right, it's time for coffee break," and then they both go off, and then you hear kids screaming after they leave, and it just kind of came up fun. I need to. It's funny. My next door neighbors, they've been here about a year. We've talked, but I don't like have their email address or anything. But I want to give that to them.
That would be cool.
Yeah. And again, the models are interesting because, like, underneath the ogre, they have like bones scattered around on the ground, right? And
Oh,
the ogre actually, when he walks out, he steps on one of the bones and the bone moves. I mean, it's when you
oh,
look at the
wow.
detail that these things can come up with, it's pretty scary.
Well, and especially if that's not in the prompt and it just figures out there's something
Mhm.
there that has physics to it and all that. So,
Exactly. Exactly. You're right. There's nothing in the prompt that, and it was just a very simple thing. I just said, hey, have them go on coffee break. I just wanted to see what it could do. And
that's cool. That kind of, in a weird roundabout way, reminds me of so in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard, I don't know if they still have this, but there would be a bunch of people dressed up as celebrities tourists would pay them to take photographs.
uh huh.
Well, just one of the most enduring things, I was there one day and I saw Jesus talking to Marilyn Monroe.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I have a photo of it somewhere. I should try to animate that. Although
That's
Jesus was a famous guy, and he's no longer with us, but,
yeah, yes, that's
he was called I think it was called Hollywood Jesus or something like that.
Hollywood Jesus. All
Yeah.
right. Yep, yep. That's funny. I have a picture that I took when I first came out here in '85, and I was up in LA, and I took this picture, and and I remember sending it to a friend of mine saying, "Hey, this is LA." So it was two park benches in front of a strip club. And so the strip club is like nudes, nudes, like this massive sign.
Mm.
And then the two park benches, one was like I think an attorney, like like an
Mhm.
ambulance chaser, and the other one said, "Repent, Jesus is coming." And I just love the messaging all in here. Saying, "Yep, this is L.A."
Well, I'm sure whatever church paid for that did, placed it there on purpose in front of the nudes, so,
I will give that to them.
yeah. I'm
Have
fairly sure I know which place that was too. It was
Maybe you
it was
do.
probably nudes, nudes, nudes. I think it was 3 nudes, right?
It might be.
Yeah.
It might be. I just again, this is 40 years ago. 30, yeah, 40 years
I
ago.
was there, yeah. Hey,
ha
Tim.
have hey, have either of you guys played with Meta AI?
You mean for the image and video generation?
So there's an app, Meta AI, and you can, create images, and some people are doing lip synced video there as well.
Oh, that's cool.
And and so I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I've asked it how to do it, and it says it's somehow tied to Instagram and Facebook. So I don't
So
know about that.
so
If
so
it's
maybe it's just your account credentials are from.
it could be you have to be at a certain level on Facebook or Instagram, I'm not sure.
Oh, I heard, and maybe I misremembered, that Meta was using Midjourney, but maybe not. It doesn't seem like they would wanna use someone else's models, so.
Yeah, the, uh, the Meta AI uses Midjourney, I think, just
Okay.
based on how good looking the images are and how consistent they are. And I have seen some people use SREF and some other um,
Oh,
things that are so it might be something to play with. I mean, it's free,
mm. Yeah,
so so
if you use a
definitely
bunch of
worth.
Midjourney commands and it honors them, yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, and but I haven't seen it do any 16 by 9. It's only 9 by 16 is what I've seen. So,
But they may be
um,
forcing that just as a platform choice.
yeah, just not certain about you know, the controls of it. It seems very UGC right now, but yet there's some people have some work there that is just amazing. It looks incredible.
Yeah, I'll have to go check it out. I really haven't played with the consumer facing ones very much, but probably a good idea. It's back on mute.
Nope.
Sorry, guys. What'd you say?
Oh, I said you were back on mute.
Yeah.
Ron told me you're multitasking today.
Yeah, I'm double booked, so yeah, sorry, sorry. Just, scheduling worked out that way. So I gotta drop for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I found that like my customers have like no respect for my schedule whatsoever.
Yeah, I notice work gets in the way of my rock and roll lifestyle all the time, so.
There you go. There you go.
So are you working on any creative projects right now?
Not not the way you guys are. I I start actually what I'm doing really full time now is I started a Substack about 4 weeks ago. And so I write on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I am totally covering AI. And
Oh, that's awesome.
so, yeah,
It's including LLMs and machine learning.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my background is electrical engineering. So I'm. It's funny. I like to call myself a Renaissance man because I kind of have the art and the technology together.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, one of I'm starting to plan. I already have 3 videos that I'm looking to put together, and when just in terms of just before I get to LLMs, there's a whole foundation of work that I want to build up. But the 3 videos that I'm going to do is one is the first neuron that was created was called a perceptron. It was back in 1958. And so what I'm going to show is how to take a perceptron with just 2 weights and show how to train that and the calculations it takes to train that to do a certain function. So that people get an idea on, like, when you hear about there's so many weights in a model. Well, I'm going to show you how long it takes just to do 2 weights to train a neuron, and then to do the inference to show that the neuron actually does what it does. And then the next video, I'm actually going to get a little bit more complex, where you're going to have to you can't do it with one neuron. I'm going to have 2 neurons, and then the last one that I'm going to do is essentially it's like a vision project, but it'll be that the screen will only be by 3 pixels by 3 pixels,
Oh wow.
and I'll show how to train. It'll be at least 3 or 4 neurons. But for you to be able to tell whether there's of the 3 by 3, whether the lines are horizontal or vertical,
Oh,
and essentially just trying to explain this to say, look, a lot of this stuff is so complicated and people think of it, but if you can add and multiply, that's all the math you need to know to understand how this stuff works. But again, slowly just building up that capability. I'm eventually going to get to LLMs, but I need to start first just to get these ideas, like what is a weight and what is training and what is inference, and just give people a good understanding of this in the background as I build up. So I'm pretty excited about where I'm going with this.
yeah. I remember the early days of computer vision. The first big project that was taken on by the community was to figure out what a cat was.
Yes, yes.
So that whole history, just that alone is interesting. That
Yeah, and that comes out of like the MIT Media Lab
Mhm.
with Marvin Minsky and Seymour Papert and all of those guys. So yeah, yeah. It's funny. I think it was 1984, 84, 85 that Stuart Brand wrote a book called The MIT Media Lab,
Yeah, I'm familiar
and
with it.
I went back and reread that book just a couple months ago.
Well, that would be
Uh,
fun 'cause there are a lot of, like, forward-looking predictions
a
that,
lot of forward-looking predictions so that they got right, other things that got wrong. But what I really liked was you could actually see, like, the people that kind of saw that there was some change, and
Mhm.
some of them decided to adopt it, and some of them didn't. The ones that didn't aren't around anymore. So it's a very interesting book to go back and read 40 years later. Of course, everything wasn't right, but a lot of it was right on.
Yeah, well, and then some of those early people are now the ones sounding the alarms, like Jaron, what's his name? Jaron, I forgot his the guy, he was, like, in the, virtual world stuff. I'm blanking on his name.
I'm drawing a blank too.
Oh, Lenier or something like that.
I'm not. It's not ringing a bell for me.
Yeah, Jaron Lanier. Yeah, he was a computer
Okay.
science and scientist and visual artist who I think was kind of, I mean, he's a technologist, futurist, et cetera, but I think he was one of those visionaries in that same group with Stuart Brand, who's now sounding the alarm about everything that's going on with AI. So
Yeah. 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 And then again, there's on one hand, there's alarm,
yeah,
right? And then there's over optimism. And
right.
historically, it's usually right down, it's in the middle, right? I think that. Tim and I met in early podcasting, and so there was just a small group of us, a tiny group of us that got together. And what's really funny is when the way we looked at these new technologies, saying like the ability to broadcast for essentially a low cost, um, we kind of saw it as like liberating. Like we don't need transmitters and television studios, and we don't need all of that. But I think that we were a little idealistic on what it would become. And so that there were some downsides to the fact that the good news is everybody can transmit their message, and the bad news is that everybody can transmit their message.
Exactly.
um,
And in the end, it's still the big media companies and celebrities who get most of the attention.
yeah, and I think as long as advertising is tied to it, that's going to be the way it is. It's the business model.
Yeah, and without advertising, you have subscription or you're doing it for free or doing it to subsidize where it's subsidized by some other business like speaking or whatever.
Yeah, and so that is one thing that is different, because I think up until recently that you never really paid for the source, or you never really paid for the content. You kind of paid for the source of the content. Um,
Right, like you
and
paid for the newspaper itself, but not for the content.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that how people and so that was highly subsidized. That they lose money delivering a newspaper to you. Um, and so they had to somehow subsidize the cost through advertising. Um, But recently, when you look at these platforms, say like Substack and things like that, where they've monetized this stuff, where people are saying, no, no, I really want to pay. I want to support the work of somebody um, that is really breaking the advertising model. Now, will it destroy it? No. But we're seeing lots of success, I would say, in individuals that are creating their content, maybe news content or analysis content that are being paid, where people are supporting them.
But a
Uh,
lot of them are already people who've built a following as journalists or as influencers of some kind. Like
yeah,
Casey Newton,
absolutely.
former, and all these people who are part of the Verge. And although I guess the Verge, they're still part of the whatever that company that owns all that stuff is. But like Casey
Mhm.
Newton just went off on his own.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's one of those tech reporters who's I think I don't know if he was New York Times or anyway, it is
Yeah.
interesting. Um, Kara Swisher is like the model for everyone.
Mhm.
Is a
Yeah.
tech journalist who's like really doing well, really
Yeah.
making good money now doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And I don't think that opportunity was there. And so that opportunity has now grown. And as we start to maybe fragment, and I guess that's the other thing is the way I look at it is that I've been around long enough to, and especially in say communications or computing, we're always going between is it a centralized model or a decentralized model, right? Right, mainframes
mhm,
to PCs, you know, back to cloud, right?
right.
It's just and so we just keep going back and forth. And I think that the examples that you just gave is that, do you need that centralized model? You do need the fact that, you are popular, but I think we're also seeing examples where people that are just creating good content
Yeah,
rise to the top, that they become these influencers, if you will.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, but I think the one thing that people are not recreating is the ad networks. So they'll still make a deal with one of the big ad networks.
yes, except for this new model that has opened up where people are
Yeah,
supporting these people.
yeah, Patreon and yeah, all that.
Yeah, Patreon's gosh, that must be at least 10 years old now, right? I mean, that's been around for a long
Yeah.
time, Patreon. And that's the old, and that really goes back to the old patron model, from the 1700s, that they're the masters and the patrons.
But the
Um,
difference now is it's distributed, so you have a bunch of people paying like $5 a month versus one kind of king paying for it all.
exactly. Oh yeah. No, yeah. The whole cord cutter people, that, like I'm going to get a bunch of subscriptions to these different things rather than paying like a centralized cable company. And I also think, like, I have a hard time with that, but I also think it's probably because I'm older. But I noticed that, the younger folks have no problem with this fragmented subscription payment model.
But now
Um,
it's, now the reaggregation starting again.
and it will. It to me, it's going to go back and forth. Right? It
Well,
always
part of
has,
it
and it
is
always
part
will.
of the problem is the media, the financial landscape of big media is so broken right now, so
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of it, and I learned this through podcasting, is that um, people want authenticity. And that I find a lot of the media is just there's just an inauthenticity there. Like, I have to do things a certain way. Um, and so what people are looking for is it's just authentic,
yep.
and that authentic is screwing up every now and then, right? You know, uh,
Well,
whenever I
right.
do just
Authentic gets into sex scandals and things like that too, so
well, no, it could, but also authentic is just telling it the way it is,
yeah.
right? Whether you want to hear it or not.
Well,
Um,
and I think that's why Mark Maron did so well.
who's that?
Mark Maron, he's a stand-up comedian who created a popular podcast, and he was really kind of set the model for a lot of the entertainers who got into it now. He just
Yeah,
ended his podcast after, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of episodes,
got it. Yeah, yeah.
maybe
Well,
thousands.
and I mean, comedians are a great um, barometer, because the great comedians will say things that you may not want to say out loud, right?
Oh, no, he
But
says a
they're
lot of
based
political
on
things
truth.
that are more risky than most entertainers would say,
Yeah,
so
yeah, and but again, it's that authenticity that I think is what humans crave.
yeah. He
Um,
talks about his cats, he talks about losing the love of his life, and also interviews celebrities and, you know, so
yeah, 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 that's good. So again, we're in an interesting, weird time frame. I love it. I think I had mentioned this before on this call, but I've been drawn to technologies that scare the hell out of people. That whenever I see something like this is scary, like you said, all of the warnings, all of the bad things, all of the things that happen. The more people that are saying that, the more I'm drawn to the technology. Like, there's something in there. Why are they afraid? When you see a Craigslist that turns a $1 billion industry into $1 million industry, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That essentially destroyed the ad model for newspapers.
For classified ads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the LA Times used to have, like, half the paper was classified ads, so
Yeah. Like the want ads and um what was that? What was the period? And I don't even know if that was out here. Maybe there had to be some sort of equivalent, but when I was back in Massachusetts, there was like this weekly
yeah.
printed thing that came out.
Yeah, so
And
there was the LA Weekly and the LA Reader and similar to the Village Voice. In fact, Voice Media ended up buying the LA Weekly at some point, so
okay, yeah, got it, yeah. And so there were no, and what I'm talking about, this want ad thing, is that there were no articles or anything. It was just classified ads.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, and that essentially it was an honor system thing. It was free to put stuff in there, and that you would promise to send 10% of whatever you sold,
Oh, interesting,
to
yeah.
them.
I didn't was not sure I knew about that business model when I was in LA, if I missed
Right,
it, but
right, and again, this might be from Massachusetts, where I
yeah.
grew up, but, like, And so again, it
That's
was a
sort of the whole academic culture too that might foster those kinds of
it very well
innovation.
could. It very well could, but this is the type of thing that you would go and you would buy it at your local grocery store or whatever, and on Saturday morning, you'd be going through it and then calling people and driving around and,
Yeah,
maybe it's sort of like, Facebook Marketplace now, but it was done in
yeah.
print
Well,
form.
there was Penny Saver, but I think you paid per ad
There was
unit.
Penny Saver, yep, that's right, and that I recognize from out here,
Yeah.
but, yep, as we've digitized, uh as we started isn't this actually, I think this is the analogy from the Media Lab is, the conversation between atoms and bits.
Oh, right, exactly.
Yeah,
That was it from
yeah,
Adam's. It's and now, I mean, the consequences, they're no longer blockbuster videos, and you know, real estate was heavily impacted by all this, especially
yeah,
retail
yeah,
real estate. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, you think Blockbuster Video and then Netflix,
right.
and I mean, Netflix to me was like, what a bizarre model. You're gonna go and pull DVDs out of a vending machine and then bring them back and then eventually they said, "Yeah, we don't need the vending machines." Right? Atoms to bits.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and they were bits, but they needed the physical media to send them to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and postage and all of that, you know? And then, and then there's the business model that they've now become is essentially that they've become studios. And I I I guess the whole reason you wanna create content is, again, to keep people on your platform so that they keep paying you every month.
Right, and then they have more control over the output, and they have some ownership. They get some. I mean, actually, Netflix model is they keep everything. I don't think they. I don't think. I think they retain worldwide rights. They don't resell it like most media companies. So
Got it, which is a retention strategy, makes
yeah,
I get it. Yeah, you if you want this content, you gotta subscribe monthly to
right.
us.
Whereas HBO will run something for exclusively for a few years, and then they'll resell it to other platforms.
Got it, and just so they have a licensing,
Licensing deal.
revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But all of Hollywood decided they wanted to be Netflix, and it didn't work out so well.
Well, yeah, because I mean, business is business. There's only going to be so many first movers and what they can do, and
Yeah.
you need to find the what is the next thing. Um,
So what do you think about the synthetic personalities thing that's with AI? These companies gonna create, like, thousands of podcasts entirely using AI, machine learning, etcetera. They're just gonna generate them.
I'm a I would say that my blind spot is that I am like a more optimistic person than
Mhm.
pessimistic, and that is my blind spot. I'll own it. I'll say in this area, I'm feeling more pessimistic.
I think it's like if you generate enough slop, something's gonna hit. I think
Yes.
that's their model, like, we're gonna generate a ton of slop, and if, like, 3% of those hit, then they'll still make a lot of money, so
Yeah. It reminds me of an old Bob Newhart skit where he says, like, if you have an infinite amount of monkeys and infinite amount of typewriters, eventually the monkeys will
yeah,
start writing the world's greatest books.
yep.
Um, is that you're right that you will hit something. Um, where I come from in the way I'm trying to frame this, not to just be negative to be negative, is that as a storyteller, as someone who tells stories, that my job is to cause involuntary reactions within you. You know,
Right.
to have you release um, maybe some endorphins or dopamine,
Mhm.
right? Or have you feel empathy, oxytocin,
Yep.
and if these models are stochastic parrots,
Mhm.
I just don't know if they can adequately capture the things that a human can do, unless they're trained. So if they're trained where they know what it feels like to break an arm,
Mhm.
what it feels like to lose a loved one, that it's that type stuff that maybe you can train in the future. Maybe you can figure out some way of having oxytocin go through an LLM model. But that is what separates the humans from the machines.
Well, and
And
they don't necessarily have that kind of nervous system, but they do. Well, it's hard to know what's real, but they could have existential fears of being turned off or being replaced by another model.
so that would be a fear, right? Um, but uh,
But I think even then it's performative, right? It's just spitting out
yes, it's
things.
that stochastic part, or
Yeah.
and it's parrot part that they're competent fakes. That they're
And so
competent fakes.
I've played around with using LLMs for story writing, and okay, they're good for generating one-liner ideas. You generate 500
Yes,
ideas and pick and
yes,
choose and mix and match.
yes.
That's good for that. On the storytelling side, they're competent to hit plot points, but not to create drama, not to create
Yep.
that feeling. So you could use it as a writing assistant, and I think that's maybe the way to do it if people are gonna tell stories, but
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I think that I'm a firm believer in kind of a collaboration, that a human in the loop is absolutely necessary. Because you're right, they're great to come up with ideas. It's like if you, I, and Tim sat around and we said, "Hey, let's brainstorm some ideas," right?
yeah,
And we're each going to come from our own perspective, and we're going to come up with a lot of ideas. And some of them are going to be, a few of them will be great, a lot of them be crap, right? But then eventually we may come around saying, "Hey, here's the one we want to work on, and why."
yeah.
Um, I think that AI is really good at giving you a lot of those ideas, and
Yeah, it's
then
like a TV
you,
writer's room,
yes, yes,
which,
um,
I would say, well, and it's mostly derivative, but probably most of what comes up in a writer's room is gonna be derivative, and you find those gems.
definitely, yeah. So it's a way of, I guess, artificially creating that writer's room,
Yeah. Well,
and
I was advising a startup, and, I wanted to do some social marketing, and I just say, "Generate 100 posts on these 5 subjects," and it was great at that, but it needed a human curator, at least back then, so
exactly, exactly. So at that point, you're kind of describing an efficiency push. Uh, when I write, I will tell you that I hate writing from the blank page. I hate it. I love editing. I love editing so well. So one of the things that I really like is just taking all of my notes and stuff and kind of throwing it into this mash of stuff,
mhm.
and having AI help me create the first ugly draft, the really ugly draft. But then once I have that, I can look at it, and now I get into stuff I like to do. I'm like, well, I really need to move this here and this here, and
Well,
need
it
to
can
delete
find
that.
some through lines that you might not have thought of yet.
Yeah, but sometimes I might even just I have the through line. You're right. So I usually have the through line in
Okay,
there, right? That's part of the notes. I'm not looking for that. But
okay.
you're right. There might be like, oh, that's an interesting way of taking that I never really would have thought about. Let's explore that. And if you've ever written dialogue, writing dialogue is a really, really weird thing, because
It
um,
is.
as you read back, you say, they wouldn't say that, and then and so
Well, the hard part is also sometimes it starts to sound like one voice, all the characters sounding like one voice, so you have to.
yes, 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 and so it trying to explain to someone who's never written dialogue, that it can sound like you're slightly psycho. Um,
Interesting. So you're, have you built any sort of following around any like these themes like AI stuff or
No, and again, I just started 4 weeks ago.
okay. I
Um,
was just
yeah.
curious, yeah.
Yeah, no, so I have not, so it's 4 weeks ago that I started, so 8 articles, I'll have 10 out, by the end of this week, and what I decided to do is my goal is I'm gonna absolutely commit to this thing for 1 year, so I'm gonna go till October of next year, 100% in, and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks sounds doable if you have the time.
To
You were saying you're doing 2 a week?
2 a
2
week, yes,
yeah.
yes. Yep, I do 2 a week, so Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm trying to stay ahead,
Mhm.
ahead of it. And I am, and the more I push ahead is like, in terms of the printed, is giving me the ability to put together the videos, which take more time,
Oh, right.
um, which take more time to do. Yeah.
And are you using AI to generate the visuals, or is it just,
I am, and what's funny is, actually, you can go and look at it, but one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to have a signature look of all of the images. And I've always loved, um, uh, Art Deco, the
yeah,
20s.
yeah.
And so, I am so I've created a little custom GPT that I can once I have my article, a lot of times there might be like a metaphor in there, and then I'll just kinda give this the metaphor, and it is creating it's got like an art deco, it's got the same colors in it,
Mhm.
and it's what I wanted. When I look back at, say, the 8 articles that are there, you can
Mhm.
look at this and say, "That image is Noisy Nodes," is the name of
Right,
my Substack. And so,
yeah.
yes, I am absolutely using it.
Well, a Midjourney would be very good at that because you can create, I forgot what it's called, like a look profile.
Yes, yes, but even then, I don't need Journey because, like, I only want limited colors. I only want solid colors. I don't need gradients. Matter of fact, especially I don't want gradients, right?
Right.
So it's very simple, um, and so, yeah, I don't need photorealistic. I just,
Yeah,
picture
so basically flat.
1940 flat, exactly, 1940s posters.
Yeah,
That's sort of what it looks like with a little modern flair to it.
yeah. Which is interesting because that was I think a lot of that stuff was meant to be futuristic at the time.
Exactly, yeah, I've
It's like
loved that look.
retro futurism.
I've never heard those terms put together, but yes, that's exactly what it is, and that's what I wanted to do, and they're coming out great. I'm so pleased with how the look of these things.
That's very cool. Yeah, I was just at a theater here in Dallas last night, called Granada Theater, and they have, kind of a mural on the ceiling, with a total art deco, you know, just interesting. I know a bunch of theaters like that, like in Los Angeles, the Wiltern Theater has that kind of a look too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, back when we actually, respected architecture.
Right.
I, my wife and I, a couple weeks ago, stayed down at the Grand Colonial down in La Jolla, and so this thing is over 100 years old. And so, I'm usually up really early in the morning, so it's like 5 in the morning. I go down into the lobby, and I'm sitting there reading a book, and I'm just looking around, and you're looking at the crown molding and how much the detail in each one, and then they've even painted, so there's little spots of paint, and you're like, "Wow." I mean, they respected architecture back then,
Yeah.
and I love all of that.
Well, they restored the Wiltern at some point, maybe 20, 30 years ago. My cousin was one of the artists there, and
Oh,
they had, like,
really?
a handful of artists working full time for, like, a year or so, like, doing all of that, painting, the molding, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've probably had to redo it a couple of times since then, but, maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah, and then so can AI appreciate that? I don't know, right? That's
But
the
what does
part.
appreciate mean?
Good. Well, and maybe we just proved the point. If you can't explain it, right? How does it learn about
Well,
it?
well, no, I think there's two parts to appreciation. One is it may be able to quantify what it thinks are good, or what are the traits that make something good. It seems to be fairly good at that to some degree, but having the feeling, having the emotional response is the thing that
Mm.
doesn't seem to be available yet. So
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, and that's the other thing is, that we call this thing artificial intelligence, and so, yeah, I guess our brains have neurons and
mm.
synapses and things like that, but is that how our brain works? I highly doubt it. It's a biological organism.
But
Um,
computing has always been seen as a model of the brain. People thought, electronic circuits in computers were how our brain worked before they understood the network
and it
aspect
would
of
make sense because, I mean, I believe we learn through metaphor. That's how we
it.
learn,
Mhm.
and so that the computer brain metaphor is how we can come up with conceptions of explaining what we mean by computation. So
Yeah.
that would be
But
consistent.
but neural networks seem to be closer to what we are, but who knows?
It is. Well, if it is, we really suck at it from a power consumption capability, right?
True.
Like how many watts of power is your brain running on compared to how many megawatts we need to train
Right.
a small model.
But
So
then that wattage is powering a whole body, a whole respiratory system, circulation
yeah,
system.
so we're even more efficient. Yeah, biologically we're pretty efficient beings.
Evolution is good at that, at efficiency.
Well, exactly, yeah. When you have billions of years, uh, and you have, yeah, exactly. And so at a certain point, we come up with these analogies of what life is. You know, I like it when we build robots and we make them look like people.
Right.
But maybe they don't have to look like people. They just have to do tasks.
Yeah, someone was critical of one of the big tech companies for wanting to make them look like humanoids when, like a house assistant probably shouldn't look like a human maid. It probably would look more like I don't know, like a little droid or something
Exactly, like
or like
Rosie from
R2,
the Jetsons, right?
yeah, yeah, or like R2D2 is probably closer.
Exactly,
You know,
R2D2 or whatever the robot it was called Robot in, Lost in Space,
mhm.
yeah, robots.
So anyway, I'm just realizing, like, because this is recording, other people in the group are gonna go and see our conversation about AI.
You know what? It's all
And
good.
it'll be all this other stuff. No, it's fun, it's fun,
Yeah.
it's actually fun.
Yep.
So, have you seen any sort of announcements? I mean, other than what Tim was talking about with Meta AI, have you seen any tech news about new models or things coming out?
No, I have what about you?
No, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to all of that recently, but the last week or 2, but
Yeah.
I tend to focus on a couple of tools, and then I'll hear something and play with it, and, usually I drop it, I abandon it unless I'm seeing it can do something that the other tools can't do. So I'm still mostly using Midjourney and Kling.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
I
and
feel
I'm
I feel like I have to use Gemini more. A lot of people are really raving about Gemini, so
yeah, so again, I don't do a lot of, the video, the AI filmmaker
yeah.
stuff, like this. I'm just learning through osmosis by, listening to you folks. But I do use ChatGPT and Gemini quite a bit. And so I've been trying to try to use different tools just to see what they're good at and what they're, maybe where they fall short. And I'm starting to see a split there between Gemini. I really haven't used Grok that much. I can give it a try. It's probably one of the ones I'll give it a try. I have used Claude, um, and so I like to like if I'm going to pay for one, I'll pay for one at a time. I don't need
Yeah,
to just
that's what I'm doing. I'm
use them
paying
all.
for ChatGPT, and I have, like, custom GPTs and a bunch of stuff set up, but I have been on the free version of Google, of Gemini, I've created they call them gems, I think, something like that,
Yes,
the version of
yes,
GPTs. So I've created similar ones there. And a lot of times I'll just do a bake off. I'll just send uh, the same thing to both of them, and sometimes I'll take the output of one and send it to the other and go back and forth, and sort of
that's
interesting
fun.
to play them off each other that way.
Yeah, yeah, that is absolutely fun.
I
I
haven't
enjoy
tried it
that.
with Claude. I haven't used Claude in a while, but
Yeah,
I mean,
Claude. I
Claude may
mean,
actually be better than ChatGPT. I just have a lot invested in ChatGPT so far.
ditto. So early on, I found that Claude was, um, excuse me, much better at the kind of the writing,
Mhm.
but I noticed that ChatGPT 5 really kind of caught up,
Yeah.
and so I found that the writing on ChatGPT 5 has been close. There are,
You've been using the thinking model?
I've used the thinking model a couple times. So like one of the things in terms of like for research for noisy nodes that I will come up with something that I really need it to do some research on. So uh, one of the things is like I want you to create a table that compares the teraflops per watt on say NVIDIA GPUs and
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
APUs and things like that. And so I'll use the thinking model to go out, and then I'll also ask it in another column, make I want you to give me the source, a link to the source where you got this from.
Yeah.
And so it'll go off and it'll work for 20, 30 minutes going out, and then I'll get this great little table, right? So that's what I'll use like the thinking for.
Yeah, and with that, it's because it's so complex, it may be hard to trust the
That's why
calculation.
I always say, give me a link to your
Yeah,
source,
yep.
you know, and then I'll factor because I will never ever take what AI tells me is
Mhm.
gospel because that's not how the models work. The only reason these models work, they aren't deterministic.
No.
That you have to assume that every piece of information you get back has some error in it,
Yeah,
which is
well,
fine.
they're designed to speak confidently even if they have no idea. They're designed to give you an answer. They're never so far, they haven't been designed to say, "I don't know." I haven't ever seen that response, you know?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's funny. One of the articles I wrote, I talk about that. Yes, it's a stochastic parrot, and that until we change the benchmarks, we'll still always have a lot of this error in there because as long as um, accuracy is less important than what you're measuring, all right, uh, you'll never what you want it to come up with more I don't knows or I'm not sure. Um, but if it's what I came up with an answer and it's accurate,
Mhm.
if that's your benchmark, you're probably never gonna get rid of that because it's like you said, it's always positive and it's always, and even if you ask it to do some I would love a model say, "No, not from a protection capability.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I can't figure that out. I tried, and I can't figure that out."
I think what, like ChatGPT's gotten better at is things like doing math. It was really bad before, so I assume there's just a separate model. It just sends it off to a separate model to do math. And
Well, I
and
think
and that's there's the orchestration side where you're gonna have a bunch of specialized model. You have an orchestrator. I mean, this is where agentic AI comes, right? You have the orchestrator model, and it figures out send this task to this model, and then take that output and send that to another model, et cetera, et cetera. So
I 100% agree with that. Right now, you look at the power of all of these frontier models. It's ChatGPT 5 and it's Claude and and you have these big monolith models.
mhm.
Whereas I do think that you had mentioned you played with custom GPTs,
Yeah,
right? So that you have these little models that are only good for you and what you want them to do. I think that that is the future. That rather than large language models, I think that's a bunch of small language models coordinated the way you just explained. That's my guess on where things will be
well,
going.
that's that's where corporate is going with well, first with retrieval augmented generation,
Yep.
which
Yep.
is big now. But you have to have the data. If you have a data lake or if you have big databases, it's very useful. But then they're combining those, so that's where they're. I mean, that's where all this agentic stuff. I mean, if you just look at all the corporate AI conversations, it's all around agentic stuff, and there's this orchestration piece to it that will become very interesting, I think. So
I find it interesting that a couple years ago, everybody was talking about AGI. We're
mhm.
going to hit AGI. We're going to hit AGI, and they're not talking about that anymore. Now they're talking about it's the agentic stuff. So,
Well, because
um,
the agentic stuff is uh, can save money and or generate revenue. AGI was hype. I think AGI was hyped to get investors and to keep the government off their back,
mhm,
because
mhm,
if we don't do it, the Chinese will. I think that's
mhm,
mostly being
mhm.
hyped. I do think that AGI is possible, but who knows if it's 2 years off or 30 years off. So
I'm with you on that. Like, who knows? Who knows? Uh, but the other thing is that um, they s- we really still haven't found companies still haven't found uh, that that magic bullet, if you will. We've seen some positive in say like programming. All right, so we're definitely seeing uh, some some use in terms of maybe productivity and things like that. And even that might be debatable, but
well,
low
for
salary.
coding, yeah, no, but coding is closer to being deterministic.
Yes.
That it's deterministic, but there's a goal and it has to function correctly. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And so that's one area. But in the it's funny the
customer service is the next one.
customer service and we've had sort of even before ChatGPT and things like that, we've had the kind of those the text models, that you would interact with from a customer support perspective.
But
Um,
those were just completely pre-populated,
yes.
kind of tree-based, if this answer, then that, etcetera.
Yeah, exactly,
So
exactly. So then maybe the other killer app would be, you're right, that AI is really good at just taking gobs of information
Hmm.
and then being able to extract stuff out of that. To me, my favorite AI tool right now of all is Notebook LM.
I
I
haven't
love
played with
that.
it.
So, what I love about Notebook LM, and it's on the Google side, so you play with
Yeah.
that, is
I've heard a lot about it, I just haven't tried it, so I will.
yeah. So let me tell you how I use it. So, uh, I have these. You have these two really heavy scientific type papers or academic papers, and like reading through those can be like, ugh. Um, and so I might have one is it's a Pew Research study on
Mhm,
people asking how they're using AI. And then I have another one that comes out from OpenAI and I think Duke University that
mhm.
says we've studied a million ways that people are using this and this way. So it was great. This is what people say they're using it for, and this is what they're actually using it for. Now you put both those studies into uh, Notebook LM. So
Mhm.
upload these two PDFs, and then I've already kind of looked I'm kind of looking through it. And so then what you can do, and it's the coolest thing, is you can create a podcast. And
Yeah,
so what I'll do is I'll say,
I've heard some of those podcasts.
yeah. And so what I'll do is I'll say, hey, here are these two things, and I really want to focus on this area, like where they diverge, and push a button, and it creates the podcast. And then I say, great, it's time for me to go for my hike. And I listen to it in my phone. I go off and I do my hike. I kind of see what they're talking about. Then you can drag that into Notebook LM, and it'll create a transcript for you. So now I actually can pull bits and pieces of it.
Mhm.
And I now can start to frame. And so then I start to put that big, ugly thing together. Here's what I'm thinking. Then I have it help me create the ugly first draft. And then I start editing and working. And so it's great to be able to go through all of this information. I can kind of see where I want to take this thing. I then guide the AI to help say, like, this is what I want to write. And it's working out really well. Yeah.
Oh, that's a very interesting workflow.
And then they also, what's funny, they just added another capability. So before it was like, create one, but they now have one that is, it's like a disagreement where you give them the information and then you have one person argue one side of the argument and the other person argue the other side of the argument.
Oh,
Another
that
really
can be very
interesting way.
effective, yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought of using it for personal learning. When I heard all the demos, I thought this is like, oh, people are meant to use this to
To
distribute the
create.
content, and I just thought it was kind of cheesy. But if it's really just an easier way to consume lots of information, that could
That's
be,
the way I use it.
yeah,
That is absolutely the way that I use it. And then the
great.
other thing is also, since the documents are in there, that I can interrogate the data. So I'll go in and you can just ask questions like, I'm looking for this, or that I remember reading a quote. Can you find that quote for me? And it'll find the quote for you,
Yeah, that's great.
and things like that. Yeah.
So I guess we're just about,
Just about at the hour.
yep. Well, really nice talking with you this morning.
Same here, Stephen. And I know you're in Dallas, but of course, if you're ever out this way, definitely look
I
me up.
am a couple times a year.
Awesome. Well, I'm right here in Orange
I'm
County.
from Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm from LA. I mean, I've only been in Dallas for 8 years, so
Okay. All right. Got
that's
it.
how I know Tim. I mean, it was the early days of, I think there was this group called Tube Filter. There was a bunch of kind
I
of,
remember. Yes, I
yeah,
remember that.
yeah, yeah, I think we might have met through that, I don't know, or some early filmmaking group, something like
Well,
that.
he seems to be the cog of
Yes.
this little community.
Yeah, it's awesome. All
All right,
right.
Stephen.
Well, have a good week.
You too. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye now.